take a look at what is happening between Marcus Rashford and Barcelona. On Wednesday, Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein broke the news that Barcelona have tabled a bid around 80 million euros to sign Anthony Gordon from Newcastle. And ever since this news came up, there has been a lot of controversies, a lot of confusion as to why will Barcelona leave Marcus Rashford and sign Anthony Gordon for a fee as high as 80 million euros. Since they already have an agreement in place with Manchester United to sign Marcus Rashford on a permanent basis for as low as 30 million euros. Logically, if you try to think about it, it does not make sense, and a lot of people cannot fathom as to why Barca will make this decision. But in this video, we are going to dive deep into it and let you understand the reason behind this decision and what is likely to happen. But before we do that, don't forget to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and also give me a follow if you're watching on TikTok. And don't forget to also like and share for the algorithm. I really appreciate your support, and thank you for helping me build this community since I started. I really appreciate it. So let's take a look at it. Marcus Rashford joined Barcelona last season for a loan, and ever since he played for them, despite injuries here and there, he managed to contribute around 28 goals and assists for Barcelona, helping them to win the La Liga title for the second time in a row. However, on Wednesday, they decided to take their attention towards Anthony Gordon and sign him from Newcastle. And this has raised a lot of eyebrows because logically it doesn't make sense to pay as high as 80 million euros for Gordon whilst ignoring Rashford. But you have to understand that the finances in football is quite different. There is something we call amortization in football. So amortization in football simply means the finances involving the cost of the transfer of players within the period that they are signed and they stay at a club. So for example, if you take a look at the case of Anthony Gordon, he will be costing Barcelona around 80 million euros. But from reports, he has signed a 5-year deal. And if you have to divide the 80 million euros by 5, it means that he will cost around 16 million euros per year for the amortization cost. On the contrary, if they decide to trigger the permanent deal clause for Marcus Rashford, which is the 30 million euros, and they decide to offer him a 2-year or 3-year permanent deal. So in the worst case scenario, let's say 2-year contract, the amortization fee will be 50 million euros, but in a more realistic world, it would be a 3-year contract, and that would be 10 million euros. You would think that Rashford's own is a bit lower, and therefore they should turn their attention to him, but it does not end there, because Rashford is on a significant salary at Barcelona, around I think 269,000 euros per week, which is around 40 million euros per year. And if you add it compared to that of Anthony Gordon, it will bring the gap very, very close. So here in this case, it goes beyond the cost or the amortization. And this is where I think we must turn our attention to other factors like the age. Rashford is currently 28-year-old and he will turn 29 in October. So if they are to sign him for that fee and they offer him a 3-year contract, it means that he will be entering into his 30s by the time his contract is over. And the likelihood for a resale value is very, very low. On the other hand, Anthony Gordon is just 25-year-old. And if they decide to offer him a 5-year deal, he will be 30 by the end of the contract. And he's also on a cheaper salary, which means that they can still offload him and get a resale value, or even decide to offer him a new deal and to be beneficial for them compared to that of Rashford. So that's another factor we must take into consideration. Another thing we must also pay attention to is that according to Barcelona fans and the Barca or the management, they expected Rashford to even do better than he did, because during the Champions League campaign, Rafinha got injured and expected him to step up and take on the mantle in certain games, but he failed to do so. And therefore, they have decided to rather rejuvenate their entire attack in a holistic manner that despite or in a situation whereby Rafinha is injured or somebody else is injured, they can still become as potent as possible. That's why they intend to bring in young guys with a lot of energy who are good at pressing. They can score from any side of the field. So they are intending to bring in Anthony Gordon and also Julian Alvarez from Atletico Madrid. So this is also another factor. And we all know that Rashford, despite being good when it comes to pressing, although he has been good at Barca, but if you go back in history during his time at Manchester United, he had a bit of issues and also plays a key role. Also, we have to consider something quite disturbing but also important when it comes to the transfer of players, and that is the background history or research. This is where I think things go against Marcus Rashford. Although at Barcelona, he has tried to give his all because he has always declared his stance that he wants to play for them, he wants to stay there beyond the loan spell. But if you trace it back to Man United gave Marcus Rashford everything. A very good salary, long contract. They made him the star boy or the poster boy of the club. But despite this, it got to a point that he was unwilling to give the club the effort that they demanded. In some games under Ruben Amorim and even under Erik ten Hag, and even way back to the period of Ole, he refused to press or trigger the press in attack. There were some games that he was walking around or jogging around whilst his teammates were busily trying to win the ball. And I'm sure that this issue of lack of effort, the management of Barcelona might have studied it and thought of it that, okay, if you had to offer this guy a contract to stay here permanently, will his attitude change or will he continue as it is? Aside the issues on the field, to his attitude beyond the field is also a factor. He was seen countless number of times in England partying, clubbing, coming to training led you to that. And I think it's also a factor. On the contrary, you hardly hear such a case for a young lad like Anthony Gordon, who is quite ambitious and he wants to take his career to the next level. So it's quite interesting what will happen. But in all this, I think Rashford has himself to be blamed, and Man United also and Barcelona have contributed to this mess, because if we take a critical look at the issue between Rashford and then Man United, there is no way he can come back to Man United. And why can't he come back to Man United in case he fails to secure his move to Barcelona? This is why we can use this simple analogy. The situation between Man United and Marcus Rashford can be likened to a man who met a young, beautiful lady, quite young, and he decided to take care of the lady till she became an adult, give her the necessary resources, the money, the dresses, the car, the mansion, everything she needed to have a comfortable life. In fact, this man loved the lady. And then in her prime, she starts seeing other men. In this case, she spots another man, let's say tall, handsome, doing well, and she's like, nah, I've lost interest for my previous guy and I intend to try the other man. So in this case, she stopped giving effort to the man who took care of her, as in she will not call him or text him or even be intimate with him. Meanwhile, she goes out there to declare her feelings for the other man to the friends and eventually get a chance to be with the man. But when it is time for the serious conversation about marriage, despite this new man promising to marry her, he keeps drawing back and has shown that he has a lot of options at his disposal. So now this girl, let's say Rashford, has to compete for the attention for the man with the other girls involved. And no matter how the previous man, that's the man who took care of her, may have loved her. Logically and for his own sanity, he wouldn't want to accept this lady back in case the relationship does not go well and she wants to come back. No, it will never happen unless he is a fool. And even if it is to happen, Man United fans will not accept Rashford back because of the things they saw and they witnessed during his time at the club. Because Man United literally gave him everything, but he took all for granted. So Rashford has himself to be blamed, and Man United also have themselves to be blamed for trash talking the player, reducing his resale value. And Barca too have themselves to be blamed because if they knew they were not going to sign him, they shouldn't have promised him that, oh, they would trigger the release clause and also give him hope. So all the parties involved have themselves to be blamed. But what would be the likeliest outcome in this scenario? For me, I predict that Barcelona will intentionally delay the transfer of Rashford. They will let the deadline pass, and the latter stages of the transfer window, they might request for another loan deal because right now the hands of Man United are tied because Rashford has publicly declared his desire to sign for only Barcelona. So although there might be offers from Bayern and other teams for Rashford, saying that you want to join Barca weakens the stance of Man United, and they will have to do something else, lose him for free, I think next year or the year after. And I think at this point, Man United will want to cash out on him and release him from their wage bill. Therefore, they may be forced to sell him for even a cheaper price than the 30 million euros. So that may be the likeliest situation, because I don't foresee Rashford coming back to Old Trafford in case he fails to secure the move. Guys, let me know, what do you think? Do you think Barca are being fair to Rashford in this situation? Do you think he could have done better? Do you think Man United could have also handled the whole situation better? Let me know your opinion in the comment section, and don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and follow me if you're watching on TikTok. So I really appreciate your support, and let's keep on growing this channel together. Until I say again, take care.